Not much has been heard from many current and former UFC fighters about the antitrust lawsuits against UFC over the past decade. While there was a dedicated core group that helped bring the lawsuits, there was also an apathetic or completely ignorant public that largely ignored the lawsuits when asked. Then came word of an agreement. The initial amount was $335 million. After Judge Richard Boulware rejected that amount in July, it was reduced to $375 million in September to settle one of the two class action lawsuits. Then the agreement was announced. The initial amount was $335 million. After Judge Richard Boulware rejected that amount in July, it was revised upward to $375 million in September as a settlement for one of two class action lawsuits. Now there was suddenly a dollar figure that made it all real. I'm not going to lie, I didn't pay much attention to it because I thought UFC had too much power and at some point they'd let it go, said one fighter, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation. When I heard there was an agreement, I was like, okay, I'm listening. Tom Lawler, the former UFC fighter and current pro wrestler, showed up to a recent plea hearing at a Las Vegas courthouse expecting to see many familiar faces. Instead, all he saw were two other MMA fighters and fewer than 15 observers total. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to who I originally spoke to about the antitrust lawsuit, Lawler said. I mean, this has been going on for 10 years now. Even if there's no money involved, I think people would pursue something like this because it could have a direct impact on their business. It's amazing how many fighters didn't even know there was a trial that went this far. The settlement still needs final approval from Judge Boulware, but both sides are confident that it will eventually get the green light. That means fighters could be paid as early as the summer of 2025, with payouts ranging from at least $15,000 for some fighters to well over $1 million for others. For the fighters I've spoken to over the past few weeks, the biggest question has been how much money they will receive. The class includes fighters who participated in UFC fights held or aired in the United States between December 16, 2010 and June 30, 2017. Fights with other organizations, even those owned by UFC's parent company at the time, such as Strikeforce, do not count toward a fighter's total. According to a distribution plan filed by the plaintiff's lawyers, the amount of the payment will be determined by two factors. 1, the total amount of fight-related compensation the fighter received from UFC, and 2, the total number of fights fought at UFC during the dispute resolution period. Compensation refers only to payments for actual fights, not including non-competitive items such as identity rights or sponsorships. However, it also includes performance bonuses, pay-per-view percentages, and even undisclosed locker room bonuses. This standard means that fighters who only participated in one or two fights but were well compensated for them, think CM Punk, even if only one of his two fights took place during the period in question, may be paid more than fighters who participated in many fights but earned much less. Eric Kramer, the plaintiff's lawyer in the lawsuit, said that if the settlement is approved, the plan is to notify eligible fighters and confirm the amount of the fights and the amount of the payment. This information, and other relevant information and documents, will be available on the Class Action Settlement Agreement website, but the process for combatants to confirm that they are included in the class action should be as simple as signing and dating a form.